Hey, good morning, everybody. Thank you for tuning in again this morning. Proverbs chapter 27. I got a couple more verses for you. Proverbs 27, verses 7, 8. First, verse 7. He said, "A satisfied soul loathes the honeycomb, but to a hungry soul, every bitter thing is sweet." This is really, I mean, you could go a bunch of different ways with this thing, but here's what I thought. The satisfied soul loathes the honeycomb. I mean, who would turn down sweet honey? I love honey. I got to tell you that. Who would turn down sweet, fresh, good honey? Who would loathe the honeycomb? He says the soul that's already satisfied will, and literal translation is like, will trample on the honeycomb. And I was just thinking about how, you know, God offers us these great blessings. You could say sweet as honey. He offers us this life that's a full life. But yet if our life is already so full with all of these other things, we have no room for the things of God. If we put so many other things into our lives that take up our hearts and that capture our hearts and captures our soul, and they fill us up and we're full of all these other things, then we have no room for the things of God. We have no room for the sweet things of God. Jesus said in John 10:10, he said, "I've come that you might have life and that you might have it abundantly." He's saying, I have come that you might have this full, complete, fulfilling life. But if our lives are so full of things that don't make it complete and don't make it filled and don't make it fulfilling, but we don't have room for the things of God. We don't have room for the life that God wants to give us. So, it's good to be hungry for the things of God. In fact, Jesus said, "Blessed are those who hunger and thirst after righteousness, because they will be filled." It's good to hunger after the sweet things of God. It's good to leave room in our lives to hunger after the things that God wants for us. For a satisfied soul tramples or loathes the honeycomb, but the hungry soul, every bitter thing is sweet. Verse 8, like a bird that wanders from its nest is a man who wanders from his place. So here again is a picture of someone who a man who wanders from his place is like a bird who wanders from his nest. In his place, in the nest, the bird, the person who is in their place, they have everything that they need. They have everything that God wants to give them. I'm reminded of the story of the prodigal son in Luke chapter 15. Probably most of you know it, and it's the young man that got his inheritance from his father, and he left the ranch and he went off into the far country and he started living his own life. Here's the deal. He left the ranch. He left the father's place. He left the father's presence. The father could no longer bless him. The father could no longer give him the things that the father wanted to give him. The father could no longer provide for him the things that the father wanted to provide for him, because he had left. He had wandered from his place. He was like the bird that wandered from its nest, went away from its safety, went away from its provision, went away from its blessing. And so often we are like that. We have wandered away from God. And the problem is, in wandering away from God, we have taken ourselves outside of the realm where God can and wants to bless us. And you say, well, God can bless me anywhere. I beg to differ, if you want to know the truth. You can't just be living in the far country and expect to receive the blessing of the Father. You need to be living on the ranch, under his watch care, under his provision, and under his guidance, and in and around, surrounded by the blessings that he has for us. So a satisfied soul loathes the honeycomb. So in other words, hunger and thirst after righteousness, so that you can be filled. And like a bird that wanders from its nest is a man who wanders from his place. Stay in God's presence. Stay on God's ranch. Stay in the place where God can bless you. Proverbs chapter 27, 7 and 8. Merry Christmas. Love you guys. Faith today. Bye.